Memphis Podcast with your hosts, Mother Delamort, Akad Norman, and Hexus Diamond.
And Raz T. Slasher.
We should just get like a normal voice recording of me. Like, don't even put my picture. I'll just be like, and Raz.
I'm fixing it with next season.
I'm not bothered by it at all, man.
You kind of came in 3 episodes late. I'm sorry. You came in for the best fourth episode.
I did. And it's only been months, no big deal.
It's only been a few months, and you've had plenty of time in between to fix it, Frank, but you haven't done it yet.
I still love you, man. It's cool.
I'm putting a lip mask on because I'm going to have plump and luscious lips while we do this.
Her lips are going to be
turtles.
popping while she's reading, pop, lock, and dropping. Yes, the audio side of this, no, they're going to really understand that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, they'll know that her lips are luscious as she's talking.
I said it. I said it, didn't I?
I feel like the people that hear this on audio only are like, they need to want to at some point in time come actually watch one of the feeds.
They should. I'll go back and like whenever we do the audio stuff, like or whatever, like the next day or whenever I have time, like throughout the day, just to make sure. Because one of the proper things to do if anybody's looking to get into podcasting, go back and re-listen to your episodes so you can perfect them and get better at them. And I'll go back and re-listen to some of them. And they actually, it's funny because when we're in the moment and doing stuff and it feels like it's scatterbrain and we're all over the place, when I go back and re-listen to it, everything comes together. It's the weirdest thing.
It does.
It does.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Patty. We just had a meeting with Patty.
Hi,
Long time no
Patty.
talk.
Delphine.
Hello, Del. Hey, Raz, what the hell are you doing in there?
Razzleberries.
Hello. Hi, Susan.
It's Susan.
Hi,
There
Andy.
you go.
How are you?
Latency. That was for Dell, but like it just wasn't working.
All right. So as you guys know, with these are our podcasts. So we're not going to be getting to our comments as often as we normally would during a live feed. So please do not be offended if we do not get to a comment of yours, because we will take the time at some point to address them, especially if they're pertinent to what we're talking about. But for the most part, we are going to just be talking about our subject. We are finally on.
You better have the best comments ever in order for us to bring it up, is what we're saying.
Not at all.
And you need to pay us money in order for us to bring your comments up.
Give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money.
Why are Akia's ears making me hungry?
Because they're candy canes.
Because we're talking about satanic murder, and
Because they're actually candy canes, by the way.
Satan.
Hold on.
These are Jelly Belly Cotton Candy canes. Sponsor me, motherfuckers.
Jelly Belly Cotton Candy canes.
Yes.
Wait. You got to say it. Say it again.
Say it.
Thank
wow. That was special.
And they're all over the tree, by the way. We also have sweet tart ones and nerds.
So y'all are up to your ears in candy canes.
Pretty much. Stretched ears. Gauged ears.
Very gauged ears.
Wow.
See, to me, that's just, I don't know. The candy canes are supposed to be peppermint. I refuse to eat the green ones. Those ones are gross. They have to be peppermint candy canes for me.
More for me.
And then you have to whittle them down.
I'm anti-peppermint. I don't dig it, man.
Cat people.
See, I like the sweet tart ones.
I have the sweet tart. Oh, I found funfetti ones. I found funfetti.
I'd try that. I'd try it.
I'm
ones are pretty
actually
good
gonna
too.
go back to Michael's tomorrow when I get my antlers, and I'll buy the the funfetti ones.
For those of
your opinion, Christmas sucks.
Agreed.
I don't disagree with that.
I hate Christmas. I'm trying.
Can't stand it.
I'm actually trying.
I don't like the commercialism of it.
My favorite
but
part
if you
about
give me a
Christmas this
holiday, I will celebrate it for the most part.
My favorite part of Christmas this year so far, I mean, other than getting to do the haunt for Christmas last weekend, was the fact that yesterday I got to go down to the haunt. by myself. The owner was in the building. He's awesome. He was doing his thing. He said, I need you to remove Christmas from the haunt. So I went in. If it was Christmas, I got to yank it out of the haunt, and I felt like I was like destroying Christmas, and it was the best feeling ever.
You should have been dressed as the Grinch. That would have been amazing.
The Grinch has got nothing on me. I wouldn't even let them put up a tree here in the room. I only let them put up one at home because I didn't have to look at it because it was in a...
She says she needs the nerd candy canes.
You know what I'm surprised about? Like with all the
You're muted.
Raz, you're muted.
I know.
Razzles.
Okay.
He's over there. He's over there talking
No,
about
we have some guests, so I'm just muting it so you can hear everything. I was being polite, asshole.
Raz is in the bathroom, and some guests have to use the bathroom, so he's gonna.
I need to find some Razzle candy canes.
Do they make
Yes.
them? I have friends who every now and then will send me like a giant. It's been a few years now, but they would always send me giant packages of Razzles. They're really
We know
What about
where to get
bottle
it.
top?
Oh, yeah, those are amazing.
Oh, and I can put them in my ears.
You could. I'm gauged with bottle tops.
What
See,
about
you're putting stuff in
Chattanooga
your
Chews
ears? Slippy's
candy
putting stuff
canes?
in his nose. Like,
You know, that was a great feed.
We
last
should just
night.
start a sideshow.
Ha ha!
I mean, that's my
Just
whole
do a whole bunch of
character in
meth
the
and everything
haunt.
like that
Is
and
that
get some
I
clown
run a freak
mask,
show.
right?
I'm the carnival barker, so I can work with that.
Hey, Nicole, look at she got stabbed with a candy cane.
She did. Oh my word.
That Hexus is a dick.
Well, yeah,
hey, everybody!
you're a demon. I mean,
That's right.
Wait, no,
He's
okay.
full. He's full of semen. That's not what I said.
You got to do it right.
he said he's in the Navy.
Hi,
Leave him alone.
everybody. Hi. Hello. There's nobody but me. Okay. Sorry.
We have to describe what just happened on the audio side. So what happened was a car got in my way in front of the camera.
Really? You really have to do that?
Yes, it's like sign language. You have to do it.
Wow.
I heart you.
Ladies and gentlemen. Wow.
Was that you're holding a teacup to give to somebody and you had it on your chin?
Pinky's up.
Pinky's
Hold
up.
on. Let me do it
This
the right way.
needs help from me. Thank you.
Oh, I thought it said
Let
give
me
me
spill
some
this, like, all
tea.
over
Thank
myself.
you.
No sideshow without me. I'm one of the freaks too. Delphine says, "Careful, Hexus. Aka's gonna put your hair in your armpits again."
She tried doing that the other day, Delphine. I have my shirt on and she's like trying to put my hair into my armpits and she's like, ha, ha, ha. I was like, it only works when I have no shirt on. I can't feel it this way. I was like,
Oh, just wait.
oh, just wait.
You'll have to take your shirt off at some point.
I get that. And you're gonna have to smell my fingers at some
I
point.
bet
too.
everybody's gonna be all like,
Like right now.
What is wrong?
"Oh, let me count the ways."
Me? He's trying to make me smell his finger.
I've been doing this since we got together. Guess what's been?
Bring him back.
Wait, we're doing this on air? Oh, that's right.
We do everything else on there. I don't see
Do we
the
have
problem
Chicka
with
Wow
it.
Wow music?
Yeah.
This is how
I mean,
small my hand is.
I just got that
Yeah,
one
can
music
you
right now.
imagine how small her hands are, people?
Look at it. This is how
Look
small
at
my
that.
hand is.
Can you imagine?
Okay.
Her hand is so small. It's tiny. Almost like she couldn't hold a pickaxe if we were going to hide a body somewhere.
In
Yeah.
Minecraft, if you can't hold a pickaxe.
First you get the horses.
No, I'm just holding on now.
Why are you
It's
holding
mine.
my finger?
It's now mine.
Wait.
Wasn't it already?
All right.
So Satan.
So
Satin? Satin?
Satan
soft
was a
and
very
silky
naughty
one?
man.
the soft and silky one.
Under the fair use, another author may make limited use of the original author's work without asking permission pursuant to 17 U.S. Code 107. Certain use of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, including multiple copies for classroom use, scholarship, or research, is not infringement of copyright.
We haven't even said what we're doing
So
right
there.
Viewer discretion is advised. We got some trigger warnings. The The related content may be disturbing for some individuals. Also, we're going to say this one. Warning, this video contains super awesome content, not suitable for people who don't enjoy super awesomeness.
And wieners.
Viewer discretion is advised.
It has wieners in it.
Can you do that little thing you were doing a minute ago, Natalie? Because I don't know if you noticed it, but between the author thing and the that like it showed you for like a brief moment of you doing that, but when she was switching the graphics over. It was awesome. That's a clip we can pull.
So before we scroll off anymore, because we're going to scroll out a little bit more, we are finally finishing up our Satanic Panic everything. And it's part 2 of the West Memphis Three.
Now we're panicking.
Yes, she
we
did
don't know what
highlight
to talk
it.
About.
It's down further.
Panicking.
Hey, Nadine!
Nadine!
Yes. I bring it up, but I'm scrolling through our notes.
Right there.
Right here. Woo!
This series has been laborious. It's neat.
Laborious.
But it's
all I could think
there
of
is
was
a lot
Dexter's Laboratory.
There is a lot of messed up stuff that we had to read through and research with, starting from, what do we start with? Was it the 70s sex trafficking ring?
No, it was the death of the queen.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you, Nadine.
Because that started before I joined with you guys, but I've gone back and listened to them.
No, I think. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
So
the Queen part was before me. The first one we talked about was the shoes.
Actually, the first. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I did with you guys. The one about the shoes, the serial killer in the shoes. That
was Ruth Red.
My head. Oh, you're right.
Jerry Bruto.
Man, I'm tired.
But no, the first thing you came on with us was the
Fox Island.
No, it was the Frenchman, the Bluebeard.
Yeah.
Gilles de Rais.
You're right.
And that honestly, we started. Hey, Mikey, we started that like that was child ritual or ritualistic murder of children in the 1600s.
Serial killer. Yeah.
Yeah. So
All right.
The shows blend together to me sometimes, like throughout the week, especially if we do like a couple in a week.
Hi, Mark.
Because I know I did one, and I know that it had a name, but I will always like mix the 2 shows up sometimes, or the 5 shows.
Did I miss him?
Mark?
Yeah, it just says he's watching.
Oh, okay.
But it's weird because when we originally started the podcast, we were like, hey, we're gonna just do the meat and potatoes of this, and then the meat and potatoes became satanic ritual murder of children. And then everything it went into, okay, we're going to talk about the Satanic Panic and everything.
It just turned into a whole bunch of middles.
Psychology. Like, I wanted to talk about frontal lobe damage, Capgras syndrome, even epilepsy as a result of frontal lobe damage, and here we are talking about ritualistic child murder.
We're only going to do 4 episodes, and then we're only going to do an hour each, and now each episode's 2-3 hours long, and we're at 11 right now.
This moment where I thought I hit the mute button, but I hit the stop cam button instead, and just went on with my life. My bad.
Yeah, I know.
Raz took his shirt off, guys, is what he's saying.
My apologies.
Boots and cats and boots and
Boots
cats
and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats.
All right. So,
What?
Can you guys believe that I'm the one who reins in the squirrels? I also create the squirrels.
I know.
She's also stoned right now, too.
No, actually, I'm not. So,
but if you watch
beginning of episode 2, investigation. Evidence and interviews. Police officers James Sudbury and Steve Jones felt that the crime had cult overtones.
The Sudbury Police Department?
No, James Sudbury. And that Damien Eccles may be a suspect because he had interest in occultism. And Jones
carried a staff.
And he carried a staff because he was a nerdy 16 or that I want to say at the time 17-year-old, right? When they started looking into him, and then by the time they really went into all of this, he was 18.
God forbid you be weird at 17 years old.
I know, right? God forbid you be weird at 36. But
wait till you hit my age. I'm old as shit and still weird.
I'm wearing a death shirt and candy canes in my ears, so there's that.
I'm wearing what's clean today.
Yeah, I don't think this is clean. I just stole it off of him.
Yeah, I don't wash my clothes. I'm an old punk rocker, gutter punk.
If it smells,
We want our
festival,
jeans to
that's how you
stand
know it's
up on
clean.
their own, damn it.
You're right.
Who's got time for
All right,
starch?
let's get back.
Well, with all the spikes and everything I had on my jeans, I could never wash them because it would mess up the washer.
I know.
That's the reason punks walk so slow. Sorry.
You can't sneak up on people if you're punk. I'll tell you that right now. The chains, everything jingling together.
I wanted
Wait, switch
spurs. I always wanted spurs, damn it, on my combat boots.
Oh yeah.
There's a few
had-
punks that I
We
knew
had
had
like chain
spurs.
contests where we'd find the longest and thickest chains, and my buddy got a log chain and tried to walk with it attached to him properly. He got like 2 feet, and he was like, "I'm tired. Fuck this."
I loved my bondage belt because I'd just sit there, like moving my hips back and forth, and it would just go ting 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 ting.
Mhm.
ting, ting. And I was like,
When I really got into black metal and started tucking my pants and into my boots and stuff like that, I was like, this is so much easier than me in punk rock. I was like, I don't have to wear all the chains or like that. I just have to wear my leather and this
There
and
was-
then jeans, and I'm good.
all right,
There was a
so
lot
I'm
of
gonna
chains
start
in
over.
grunge, too. It was weird.
Start over. Let's start
I'm gonna
over.
start over. Police officers James Sudbury and Steve Jones felt that the crime had cult overtones and that Damien Eccles may be a suspect because he had interest in occultism. And Jones felt Eccles was capable of murdering children. With no proof, by the way.
That guy
Prometheus!
definitely looks like he's gonna kill a kid or two.
Hello. I'm new here. Hi,
Hey,
Yay!
Pterodactyl.
you!
what is going on?
Go Team
Your
Pterodactyl!
indoctrination.
Welcome to the indoctrination. Razzles and Frankers is going to indoctrinate you into the church of Razzles and Frankers.
The Razzles and Frankers show.
Razzle
Exactly, Patty.
Frankers.
Frankers, not Frankers?
I said Frankers.
I didn't hear an F there.
You-
That's because he doesn't give an F.
I just think that I'm such a good singer and know how to sing notes so well that people who are peasants and don't understand my
Pterodactyl
music
meow.
can never hear my
It's
music.
their simpleton ears. They just can't comprehend
They're
the beauty and magic that
thank
is
you.
you. Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm with you.
Also, Prometheus, I am so sorry that I missed your feed the other night. I fell asleep and I'm so sorry. I had like been like, yeah, totally gonna watch your feed. I'm totally gonna be there, and then I fell asleep, and I almost killed something just now.
Wow.
Got a squirrel. Yes, the candy canes have made their debut. Actually, yesterday they did. I'm not sure how to spell the sound for pterodactyl.
I think the rules an author with sounds is just sound it out and type a bunch of letters and hope everybody else figures it out. That's what I do.
Thank you.
So
Okay, let's get back into this. So he believed, this was Steve Jones, believed that Damien Eccles was capable of murdering children without any proof. He was just like, hey, this guy right here, he's weird. I think he can murder kids.
He's got a face. It's one of those, I think that guy's going to kill a kid at some point in time faces. So I'm gathering a mustache at some point.
well, the thing with Damien Eccles is that he was very much annoyed with authority and stuff like that. So
Weren't
he did.
most of us at 17?
Well, no, exactly. He was dealing with a lot from the place where he
Or at
lived.
birth.
Huh?
Or at birth?
Oh yeah. He constantly was just going around being a shithead, which I mean, I don't blame him in any way, shape, or form, but you're gonna have that look to your face of he looks like an asshole and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying it's right what they did, but that is the reason why. If you do go back and look at the trial and stuff like that, even Damien Eccles will say, "Dear God, I wish I didn't act that way during a trial."
Yeah,
'Cause
he said
wasn't-
he brought it on himself in a lot of
He
ways,
did.
just with his smiles. But he also had the perception that justice
Yeah.
was blind and that there is no way that they could be found guilty of what they were being, charged with. He had, like some sort of trust in the system to begin with.
Right. He thought right was
You
on his
know,
side.
yeah, and
Yeah.
even Henry Rollins, you know, I mean, we talk about a lot of the other, you know, Hollywood stars and bands and things like that, that kind of got involved, which we'll get into later. But you know, even in West of Memphis, which guys, if you haven't watched a documentary
It's
on the West
awesome.
Memphis Three, that's the best one. It's West of Memphis,
It
and it's
is.
on
It
Tubi
is.
right now for free.
Is it? I
Yes,
just.
it is.
Oh yeah.
It must have just
And he-
happened this month because when we started this,
Mhm.
I went and bought it on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on because
Sucker.
I brushed up on it today. But you know, even Henry Rollins was like, that could have been me
Yeah.
Yeah.
with his
Henry-
attitude. You know.
Henry Rollins was just lucky enough to be in to grow up in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
if he was in Arkansas, if he was in another place, that would have been him.
The
Yeah.
crazy thing about him is like you don't really get him until you see him in person. It's a very odd and amazing thing. When I was visiting Nebraska a little bit after 420 on my way back from Colorado, I hung out with Dell and she took me to go see Henry Rollins. That
Mhm.
I
man,
love Henry Rollins
the way
so
he
much.
I do too.
talks, it doesn't matter what you're doing. The room could be on fire. He has this presence that just makes you stare at him. He had
Yeah.
one
Mhm.
glass of water, spoke for 2 hours, and then did like another 20, 30-minute encore. He didn't go through one whole glass of water. And the amount of talking he did was the amount of talking for like 10 hours. It
Yeah.
was like how I
Wow.
get excited and I talk fast, but only more and more
Oh,
professional because
his
he's been doing it longer. And I mean,
Mhm.
some of it was funny, but there's a lot of anecdotes. But I mean, a lot of the stuff he talked about was like,
He's a
it can't
very
even be explained or duplicated.
motivational speaker. I mean, as far as
He
just,
is.
I don't know. I like to hear what he has to say.
you know
It's amazing.
one of the funniest things I ever heard someone ask him, and he gave the best response ever. Is like, hey, because he is best friends with Glenn Danzig. They came. I'm sorry, Henry Rollins became the singer of Black Flag. He's like the second singer of
I
Black
want to
Flag.
post
But-
pictures.
Danzig, they asked him one time who would win in the fight between you and Danzig, because they a while ago, if you're into the Misfits or if you're into Black Flag, Danzig and Danzig and Henry Rollins were built, and not so much
Mhm.
anymore because they're older now. But he would ask him who would win in the fight between you guys, and Henry Rollins is like, I don't even think that way. That's my best friend.
Right.
I would never want to
Yeah.
fight him. I don't know. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever because it really showed that there's even with Danzig, with how controlling he is of his art and all that stuff. There's not a lot of ego there between those two guys. They're very down to earth people.
Mhm.
So Raz, you started something, and you must now try to pronounce this.
All right, let's see.
So this is. Are you gonna?
I'm trying to remember the description of what the sound was because that'll
It's
help.
supposed to be a pterodactyl.
Pterodactyl.
This is Amelia trying to say her pterodactyl screech in, and you said sounded
Okay,
out.
If I'm just glancing at that, it looks like "Ah, wonderful snowman" is what it looks like when I just.
I
turn
see
my
I think
thing
it
up and
started
read.
off
I
with
see,
all real monsters.
Wonderful disowned.
I see all wonder
Oh,
Facebook. This one,
yeah.
I
this
wouldn't fit this song. When?
Cthulhu Fatagan.
And Dizzy is here, but he was doing the raw egg challenge, and now I'm grossed out.
okay.
What is the raw egg challenge? I've never heard of this.
No,
Is it swallowing a raw egg?
I don't
Do that
know.
all the
Yolk
time.
is disgusting. I hate eggs. You're not going to get me to really even look at this
Yeah,
stuff.
no, I'm good. I don't
you
want
want-
salmonella.
I
Dizzy,
had it.
I-
I'm good.
no. Egg yolk, I absolutely hate. Runny egg yolks, I hate. Sunny side up eggs, they have to be scrambled.
Oh!
Everything.
That was normal. We did that all the time in sports, like back in the 80s and 90s.
What is-
man. That
Why?
was like a common thing.
Ah!
They said it was for like protein building and stuff like that. So they just have you like put
Ah!
the eggs in a blender and you put
Dizzy-
milk and everything, and you just drink it.
Dizzy says he drank 18 raw eggs. His record is
Yeah.
25.
We do a whole dozen at least. You would do a drink that just had a whole dozen and you just drink it in the morning, every morning.
Let's
No.
go back to why they thought that Eccles killed children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
let's
get
do
off
that.
the eggs thing.
Let's talk
His
about
face, his stupid face.
It was a stupid
His
face.
stupid face.
Let's get back to child murder because this egg talk is grossing me out.
Oh, fuck eggs. Let's talk about child rape and everything, guys.
So the police interviewed Eccles on May 7th, 2 days after the bodies were discovered. During the polygraph examination, he denied any involvement because, fuck, he didn't do it. And
he did deny involvement, but he also kept, when the cops would come up to him to talk to him at his fence, he would actually describe, well, if I was going to do, or if I were the killer, I would do this, this, and this. And it was like,
it was like, shut your damn mouth, dude.
yeah,
He was just
it's one
being
of
a
those,
douche. He was being a douchey
exactly.
teenager.
Yeah.
If he, and it's the same, like I said, if he even said, he's all, if I would have known what I know now back then, I would never even said any of that stuff.
Well, oh yeah. So during the polygraph, he denied involvement. The examiner claimed that the chart actually indicated deception when he did the polygraph. So on May 9th, during a formal interview by Detective Bryn Ridge, Eccles mentioned that one of the victims had wounds to the genitals. Law enforcement viewed this as intimate knowledge of the crime and being incriminating.
But one of the things, though, was I think it was wasn't the coroner, Natalie, that was releasing the information to, like,
Yeah,
Somebody was giving information.
yeah,
like,
to the local paper. They were leaking it to the local paper almost on the same day that like the coroner's report and stuff came out. They had to find somebody to pin this on, and what easier target than just like Eccles said himself, 3 dirt poor kids that nobody would ever miss.
Exactly. And
not to say that they were angels, because they were not angels.
No,
but
I've
it's
thought about
to
that
go
before.
from being a douchey teenager to a
murderer
psychotic, serial killer of children.
We kind of touched on that a bunch in the past too, especially about like the sex trafficking and stuff like that as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Whoop. Sorry, I was trying to share out here.
Oh, it's fine.
So, hey Tia. After a month had passed with little progress in the case, police continued to focus their investigation on Eccles, interrogating him more frequently than any other person. Nonetheless, they claimed he was not regarded as a direct suspect, but rather a source of information, which obviously was not true. We all know this. And on June 3rd, the police interrogated Jesse Misskelley Jr., despite him having a reported IQ of only 72, categorizing him as borderline intellectual functioning. And his status as a minor, Misskelley was questioned alone. His parents were not present during the interrogation, but his father had given permission for him to go to the police, but he did not give permission for his son to be questioned or interrogated.
Well, the thing was too is that there was a reward out, like a $30,000 or $35,000 reward, and his father, when they heard that, is like, "Hey, yeah, if you know anything, get over there and say something, man. We can get we can get whatever with this, And it's
Right.
it was just one of those things, and especially at the time, these people didn't understand civil rights, and and it's hard to understand that when you're a kid, that when you're pulled aside, that you should you definitely need to have like someone there, your lawyer present, or a parent present, to at least who knows what's going on. When these kids were pulled aside, they just were like, whatever. Damien Eccles was the only one who was 18 when he's questioned about this. Even Jason Baldwin, I think they
15,
questioned him. No, he was 17. He's only a year old. They both graduated together, but Damien was a few months older, like 6 months older or something like that. But Jason Baldwin was 17, and like they questioned him without a lawyer and questioned him without his parents being there.
Well,
And
I mean, Misskelley was questioned for 12 hours.
oh, that's just the first day.
And that was
This went on for days with him.
And only 2 segments totaling 46 minutes were recorded.
Yeah.
Misskelley.
Well, and because this case is considered closed, they have released all that evidence. So if you are really interested in hearing the actual tapes and seeing the transcripts and stuff like that of the confessions, you can find it. It's really easy to find.
I want to say I think you can find the vast majority of it on YouTube. Even like Willie Picton, you can find his and them trying to get a confession out of him in Canadian jail. You can find it on YouTube. Like
Right.
it's insane what you can find on YouTube.
Canadian
So,
jail, they apologize to you
Miss
every morning.
Kelly was questioned for a total of 12 hours, by the way.
Oh, total. I'm sorry, but so
Yeah.
okay.
And they only recorded about 46 minutes of it, and the 46 minutes of it were when they got him to say, "Yes, I did it. They did it. This is what happened." And
the
this was
times,
after
yeah.
they were, they had coerced him. They had been yelling. They had been threatening him. He was exhausted.
They were
and
trying
he quickly
to
recanted this confession, citing intimidation, coercion, fatigue, veiled threats from the police.
They were trying to get a specific confession out of him because they needed him to pinpoint basically Damien Echols and Jason Baldwin. What they even
They
in his
needed a
actual
confession because of all the circumstantial evidence, which was actually very lame.
When you hear his confession, they are literally leading him on in the actual audio part of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because he messed up in like a couple parts. Was like, oh, we went this time during the day, and they're like, no, you said it was around this time. Oh yeah, it was right when school was out. And they're like, no, it's basically it was around 8 o'clock at night, stuff like that. And that's when they get it out. They're like, okay, this is actually completely 100% accurate, and we're going to go along with this. The reason why they actually said even with him, because he actually said, I held them down, or I'm sorry, one of them ran away, so I went and caught him.
I chased him.
And that's the reason why he got a life imprisonment. If he would have just said, I saw them there, they wouldn't actually, I don't think they would have put Jesse Miss Kelly in jail. I think they probably would have let him go.
Well, Miss Kelly specifically said that he was scared of the police during his confession.
Oh yeah, he was very much afraid of them. He honestly, with his IQ level, everything like that, he didn't understand what was going on either.
Also, Jokey actually has something really cool that really ties in right now. So he was saying, I just wanted to hop in because I love the West Memphis Three history and what a long process it was to get those fellas free.
Oh yeah.
A lot of really good art came out of it, but still, what was it, 30 years? If you get a chance, check out Rollins' tribute album of Black Flag covers.
It was 18 years. It was almost Damien Echols was about
20 years.
He was given 30 years. Like one of them was given 30 years.
30 years of life.
Yeah.
But they're going to serve life in prison. They weren't getting out.
Well, all proceeds went to their legal team.
Yeah. The original idea behind what's his face, Eddie Vedder, and all of them coming together was not only because they knew they weren't going to be able to get work and stuff like that when they got out, and they weren't going to be able to really sue the system when they got out because it's Arkansas. They knew the Eddie Vedder even said our original idea was just to make sure they had money when they got out and we could actually live, Then they realize, oh shit, this is going to be 20 years down the road before they get out.
Patty said, not to be funny, but often back then the officials would use the ignorance of people to get answers, even if it was not legal.
Exactly.
Absolutely, Patty.
I think that's still done today to a degree as well.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of
but I think back then there was a certain degree of trust in the police force and the justice system to not question what they were doing was shady or somehow sideways.
Right. And now there's a lot more done on camera, body cam, so it's very different in the world. It's changed.
It's different.
It's like we have to police the police.
It's different, but it's still the same. A lot of what cops do, a lot of when you're supposed to interview, you're not supposed to interrogate. But when they're interrogating people, the first thing they do, especially when someone comes up and goes, "I want my lawyer present," or "I want or whatnot," and they're like, "Well, that's not going to." They literally start saying stuff like, "Well, that's not going to make you look good here." It's like it doesn't matter what it makes me look. I look like I want I'm exercising my civil rights.
And you have to be very specific. You cannot say, I would like to speak. Like, what is it? I want to speak to my lawyer. You have to say, I like, you have to be specific. I want to talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, because they can work around that stuff. If you're not super specific, you did not ask to seek
First
counsel.
thing you need to say is, it's I want to talk to a lawyer, and you need to provide me with a lawyer right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying another word at all. I will sit here stone faced staring at you guys the entire time. It's even that is intimidating for people to do, because you're like, you don't know when you're going to get out. And if they have nothing on you, technically they're supposed to let you go right then and there. But a lot of police, they don't.
They can hold you up to 72 hours, I think.
Yep.
Some places, 72 and
I know here
48.
they
I think
can.
California is 48.
Oh, we're 72 here.
We're 72 here, I think.
So even though Miss Kelly was informed of his Miranda rights, he later explained that he didn't really fully understand them. And in 96, the Arkansas Supreme Court ruled that Miss Kelly's confession was voluntary and that he did, in fact, understand the Miranda rights and its consequences. Portions of Miss Kelly's statement to the police were leaked to the press and reported on the front page of the Memphis Commercial Appeal before any trials had even begun.
Now, even with that, I know we brought up in the last episode that even that should have got things kicked out of court and a mistrial.
That should have been a mistrial.
The problem with that was Judge Barnett. He did not care.
He wanted blood from Eccles.
He wanted to put these kids away. And when people even brought up stuff like this, they're like, "There's no way they can get a fair trial." He was like, "I don't care." That's basically what he did.
That someone had to go down for this, regardless of who it was. It just so happened that because it was them, it made it even easier for him to just not give a shit and make an example.
Right. And I think eventually he realized he made a mistake, and that's the reason he was so hesitant about granting an appeal.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing we said before, that they with the stubbornness of people from Arkansas, it's insane. And the minute, it doesn't matter how wrong they are, if the minute they make up their mind, that's that.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Okay, and again, squirrel moment, but you know what? This is really cool, and I want everybody to be able to do it.
I think
So
it's on
Jokey
message.
just said, real quick, if you get a chance, I know this is unrelated, but definitely up your alley, PVDC. Check out Grave Face Museum. They're doing a Q&A with one of the former members of Heaven's Gate.
Ooh,
apparently, there's still a thing as well.
Heaven's Gate hasn't gone away, actually.
Yeah, it has not gone away.
You can still find the website.
And to be fair, Marshall Applewhite said, "You guys could go. It's okay."
It was.
You don't have to kill yourselves with
Heaven's Gate was one of the. It was a cult that wasn't a cult. It was the weirdest thing. Like they didn't.
He was very happy.
Well, I don't think he was happy at all, actually. But he never. They never screwed, or not screwed people. What is it? They never. What did they do? They never scrutinized anybody for leaving, and then they welcomed them back the minute they wanted to come back.
They didn't have this contract of don't ask, don't tell stuff. You know, they didn't have this whole like you have to stay with us or you're gonna die. You know, he literally told them like, hey, you know what? If you want to do this with us, cool. If this is what you believe, cool. If this is not what you believe anymore, you can go. We're not going to hurt you. And even though, like, yeah, it was horrible. The end result was absolutely horrible. He wasn't like Jonestown. You know, it wasn't like
people were forced to stay.
Yeah,
it wasn't. At least as far as we know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Ruck Terrio. It wasn't like Jim Jones. It wasn't like any of those people.
Waco.
No,
it wasn't like even Keith Rainier, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But Waco, yeah,
that was an odd one.
That's
yeah.
It wasn't like Jonestown. Thank you.
So.
All right, back to where I squirreled again. Shortly after Miss Kelly's first confession, police arrested Eccles and his close friend Baldwin. 8 months after his original confession on February 17th, 1994, Miss Kelly made another statement to police. His lawyer, Dan Stidham, remained in the room and continually advised Miss Kelly not to say anything. Miss Kelly ignored this advice and went on to detail how the boys were abused and murdered. Stidham, who was later elected to a municipal judgeship, has written a detailed critique of what he asserts are major police errors and misconceptions during their investigation. Stidham made similar comments during a radio show interview in May of 2010. So you guys might want to go check that out as well. So if you get the chance, actually, that's a really cool one to listen to.
Now on to Vicky Hutchinson.
Let's talk about Vicky Hutchinson. And this is actually what Jokey was talking about. Apparently there's something about the stepfather of the girl in question. I may be wrong.
No, he was talking about the stepfather himself. Sorry.
I was
Oh
going
no.
back. Sorry.
The stepfather of what's his face?
You talking about Terry Hobbs?
Terry Hobbs, I think that's what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
we went into that like real deep last time too.
Yeah.
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 But
Real deep.
So
deep.
Vicky Hutchison, a new resident of West Memphis, would play an important role in the investigation, though she would later recant her testimony, claiming her statements were fabricated due in part to, yet again, coercion from the police.
Mm-hmm.
They actually used Vicky Hutchinson trying to get information out of Damien Eccles and stuff like that. They actually, this is I think it was Jerry Driver was in on this and stuff like that. They actually wanted her to go in, and here's the thing: they suspect Damien Eccles of being a brutal murderer.
Oh, let's just send this chick in there.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. You got to get in there and find this stuff out about him and make some stuff up. And now, mind you, Jesse,
touch his weenie and see what happens.
Well, they didn't go that far, but
I'm
Jesse Miss Kelly was actually friends with Vicky Hutchinson. He watched her kids, and this person actually ended up screwing them all over and made up a whole bunch of shit on the spot. And the cops just took it by.
Well, I can't remember. Was it kind of the same situation as like in the Mig Martin trials, to where she was trying to get out of some sort of plea deal or something like that to cooperate with the police? Or am I completely off? I cannot remember.
No, I think you are off on this one, or I don't think it's that. I think she was.
Okay.
Well, so on May 6, 1993, before the victims were found, later that same day, actually, Hutchison took a polygraph exam by Detective Don Bray at the Marion Police Department to determine whether or not she had stolen money from her West Memphis employer. Hutchison's young son, Aaron, was also present and proved such a distraction that Bray was unable to administer the polygraph.
That's what I thought. I thought it was extremely similar to the situation with the McMartins, to where you had someone testify against them that was really doing it because they had been pressured into it.
Yes.
That's weird. I did not.
So Aaron was actually a playmate of the boys who were murdered. And it was mentioned to Bray that the boys had been killed at the playhouse. Okay. When the bodies proved to have been discovered near where Aaron indicated, Bray asked Aaron for further details, and Aaron claimed that he had witnessed the murders committed by Satanists who spoke Spanish. Now, mind you, this is a boy around the same age as these boys killed. So he could have been making this up. He could have legitimately seen these things. But has anyone ever heard Damien Eccles speak Spanish?
I haven't.
He just comes out and speaks Spanish today. He's on Telemundo tomorrow.
He's on Telemundo. We're like,
and we're all
most likely it was a mixture of him maybe seeing a group of somebody in the woods and something on TV, because it's probably Latin. Is probably what it was. And I doubt very seriously if Damien Eccles and the other two are going to be prolific in Latin, since technically at the time it was considered a dead language, and I guess it kind of sort of still is.
Yeah, it is. The only person that I can think of that knows it fluently is like Rob Zombie.
Rob Zombie doesn't know Latin fluently.
Yes, he does actually.
So
Latin's amazing, but
He studied Latin as a child. Well, he was forced to study Latin as a child. Rob
I
Zombie.
did not know that.
He actually knows it fluently.
Wait, that is so odd. His parents were carnies. They forced him to speak Latin, study Latin.
He studied it because actually he wanted to.
I don't know.
But
Oh, I thought he was forced to. My bad.
no, he
Whatever.
actually studied it because he wanted to. But Rob Zombie is actually fluent in Latin,
He likes women in the
and
old.
so is Scott.
And he also likes women in the old natural in his movies.
and so is Scott. Let me just put that out there.
So
Hi, Scott.
he speaks Latin. His parents are carnies, and he likes women the 70s
He likes the pointy booby girls
with
Bush.
Bush.
I was just about to say, I wonder if Bush is involved.
It very much is. If you
He
see
does like Bush.
all the movies I've seen with Rob Zombie where he's got naked women, they're fully unshaved,
Oh yeah.
and he
I've
makes a
gotta
point to
say-
show
The
it.
70s up in there.
As a woman, I'm quite impressed with the fluff of Bush that these women.
But artistically, I think he
Yeah.
treats them
Are
like
they wearing merkin?
because like you could just see like I don't know. There's the whole thing.
No, they probably
Are-
teased it or something.
Are they wearing merkin? Did they
Yeah.
use a pro pick?
I heard.
They
You
use
know, they stick a little
Aquanet.
fro pick in there, sticking out of there.
Yep, it's a pick and Aquanet. If it burns, that just means it's working.
Oh, God.
When I said I have big hair, I have big hair.
Oh, have a good one. Bye, Tia.
Bye.
See,
There's nothing wrong with women that are au natural, but yes, a bush
Oh.
wig is called a merkin.
I'm not
Just
saying
let
anything
you
wrong
know.
with it. I'm saying Rob Zombie. Whenever you watch his movies and he's got naked women in there, he makes a point to make them bottomless, and he shows
Shows
that
to
off,
the bush.
especially with the women in it.
God, I love
It's
visiting
It's
the
called being
forest.
deep in the 100-acre woods.
The Elven Forest.
But can you see the forest for the trees?
No, not in this case.
No, there's a bush in the way.
Okay,
We call
I'm
that a
sorry, but I gotta
canopy.
bring it up. Those
All I can think of
commercials-
is Monty Python when the bush gets blown up.
When
Sorry.
Rob Zombie does it, it's not a bush; it's a canopy. Just
those commercials for bikini line razors crack me up because like a woman walks by a bush, like a plant, and all of a sudden it's a triangle. You know, like in front of right there in front
that's the
of
real
her.
Bermuda Triangle right there.
And I was like, they're not even really being veiled about it anymore.
You know what's crazy?
They're like vagina hair.
Have you guys seen the movie?
Shave it.
You guys seen the movie The Void? Right? It was a Netflix one. It was also Lovecrafty and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
The
Mhm.
Void was a triangle. It was an upside down triangle. Every time after that, I would see
So
if I
imaginative.
see any 70s style movie or pornos, I was like, oh my god, The Void.
If you stare into the void stares back.
Indeed.
Well, if those voids stare back, you might want to go get checked.
Not unless you actually see the eyeball, and then
Then the tentacles.
it's teeth too.
I
I
lost
see you.
track of where I am, by the way.
What are we talking about again?
What are we talking about?
Biggie something or other.
Scott Davis said George Bush.
Oh, we're talking about George Bush.
Oh yeah, that's right. But that's how. Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's what started.
Yeah, I'm all Gavin.
Can we scroll out
Gavin
one more
Rossdale?
time? Bring up
Bush?
Delphine's comment real
Oh,
fast.
Bush.
Jesus, Natalie. Do you know what that big hair thing would mean for me?
It means that it would enter the room before you did.
Tentacle.
All in the hips.
Oh,
All in the hips. All in the hips.
scary movie. Have you seen the braids
Bush
coming
thing,
out the panties?
It's like the lawnmower and the weed whacker, and there's just hair flying everywhere.
Bats flying out.
It's all, pretty much.
That.
All
It's
right.
just with bats.
So we're talking about Vicky Hutchison and how she had gone in earlier the day that the boys were found, which was May 6th, 1993, for a polygraph exam to see if she had stolen money from her employer. And her son was there distracting her. So they couldn't get, it was a very inconclusive test.
Right.
But the son, Aaron, was actually a playmate of the murdered boys and mentioned that he had seen the murder and said that it was by Satanists who spoke Spanish. So Aaron's further statements were wildly inconsistent, and he was unable to identify Baldwin, Eccles, or Miss Kelly from a photo lineup. And there was no playhouse, which he had said that they were murdered by. And a police officer leaked portions of Aaron's statement to the press, contributing to the growing belief that the murders rather, were part of a satanic rite.
Right.
On or about June 1st of 93, Hutchison agreed to police suggestions to place hidden microphones in her home during an encounter with Eccles. Miss Kelly agreed to introduce Hutchison to Eccles. During their conversation, Hutchison reported that Eccles made no incriminating statements. Police said the recordings were inaudible, but Hutchison claimed the recordings were completely audible. On June 2nd, Hutchison told the police about 2 weeks after the murders were committed, she, Eccles, and Miss Kelly attended a Wiccan meeting in Terrell, Arkansas. Hutchison claimed that at the meeting, a drunken Eccles openly bragged about killing 3 boys. Miss Kelly was first questioned. Questioned on June 3rd of 93, a day after Hutchison's purported confession. Hutchison was unable to recall the Wiccan meeting location and did not name any other participants in the purported meeting. She also was never charged with theft. She claimed she had implicated Eccles and Miss Kelly to avoid facing criminal charges and to obtain the reward for the discovery of the murders.
You know, the crazy thing is Vicky Hutchinson comes back and it was in West of Memphis, and all these people who lied, they're just guilt ridden, and you can see it over their faces and like that. She was like, just you saw it too, right, Natalie, where she's just bawling,
and
she's
all
like,
the people that weren't brought in to testify as to where these 3 actually were during the time of these murders.
Yeah,
because they all had alibis.
They all had solid alibis.
Yeah, I think when stuff was going on, I think wasn't like Jason Baldwin. They were hanging out, like watching movies or something like that at Jason Baldwin's house.
On the phone with a neighborhood friend, and then Miss Kelly was actually out of town at a wrestling match, and and they even had him signed in on the roster.
People try to. They didn't even care about that. Like he was. They had a picture of him holding the championship belt of I can't remember which wrestling organization it was, but he was he was actually involved in the wrestling match.
Yeah, he actually even got an injury of some sort that evening too.
And they're like, "Oh no, we're gonna go ahead and take you at your confession right now," even though they had proof of it that he was not there.
This is a long-awaited thing for us here at PVDC. Are you guys ready?
What?
We're getting into the trials.
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought we were about to do something else. I was like, what?
I was like, what are we doing?
No. Just the fact that we're finally here. We're finally at the trials.
Yay.
This has taken 3 years.
Many year journey.
Here we go, guys. So Miss Kelly was tried separately from Eccles and Baldwin, and they were actually tried together in 94. Under the Bruton law, Miss Kelly's confession could not be admitted against his co-defendants. Thus, he was tried separately. All 3 defendants pled not guilty.
The judge also made it difficult. Where if
sorry, I just got dive bombed by my cat.
You're good. I had a weird sound a minute ago, and I looked up, and she's like chipping ice out of a fridge, and I'm like, I could not understand what was happening for a moment.
Wasn't the weird thing? What was the weird thing about the trials? Because if they would have, was it Jason Baldwin? If they would have gave him a trial separate, he would have got off.
Yeah. Oh.
But
yeah, normally they will try the easiest one first,
Yeah.
so that it will basically kind of mark the other two that are really more just circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even in this
Baldwin.
case, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, even in this case, when they went to do that, Miss Kelly, having recanted his statement, refused to testify against Eccles and
Yeah.
oh, what's the other boy's name? Baldwin.
Jason Baldwin.
Um,
Well,
yeah, so it did put a little bit more pressure on the prosecution.
If they would have got Jason Baldwin, even like after Miss Kelly refused, because that's when he finally said, "No, this is all wrong. I'm not going to do this." You know, they try to get Jason Baldwin to turn on Damien Eccles, and he's all, "No, it's my friend. I'm not doing that." And then it took the because they tried Baldwin and Eccles at the same time, and then they got that random kid from the juvenile hall in there to say, "Oh yeah, he was putting the kids." This is actually what he said, that he severed the genitals from the children and was putting them in his mouth and all this other stuff, and they took that at face value.
Well, and you know something I was listening to, and the laws may have changed, or it could have just been specific to a certain state. But jailhouse confessions like that they literally are not supposed to be allowed to use those as like evidence to convict you.
Yeah, they're complete. Well, it depends, I think, by state, but they should be inadmissible.
It depends if the guy, the way, I don't know if what happened with the
depends on if they get them to get someone to write a confession versus just like hearsay.
Well, the kid in juvenile hall was getting ready to face some major charges, and he just happened to see it on TV. And even in the documentary, he came back and he's all, "I completely lied."
Oh yeah, he was trying to get out some drug charges.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying we're talking about the trial here, and like what they did with that is that they ended up screwing over Jason Baldwin, especially Jason Baldwin, on it.
Well, and the thing is about the West Memphis Three is I didn't care what anybody said. I went into it with a completely open mind. They could very well be guilty, or they could be innocent as hell, or it could be somewhere in between and inconclusive. But so it's not that we're trying to sound all pro West Memphis Three and all, down with the man
Everything
type thing.
Read has been complete. They were railroaded. They were fucked with the entire time, and it was
there's actual evidence out there to back that up. So
yeah. So during Miss Kelly's trial, Richard Offshee, an expert on false confessions and police coercion, and professor of sociology at UC Berkeley, testified that the brief recording of Miss Kelly's interrogation was a classic example of police coercion. Critics have also stated that Miss Kelly's various confessions were in many respects inconsistent with each other, as well as with the particulars of the crime scene and murder victims, including, for example, an admission that Miss Kelly watched Damien rape one of the boys. Police had initially suspected the victims had been raped because their anuses were dilated. However, there was no forensic evidence indicating that the murdered boys had been raped. Dilation of the anus is a normal post-mortem condition.
Well, that also, and
this is why people poop themselves when they die.
Yep.
Well, and they were also underwater, which made it even worse because you decay faster in water. And plus,
what is it? It's only 48 hours before you start getting sloughing, which is your skin separating from the fat layer. I do believe.
Oh yeah, that's
and it's it is it moves faster if you're submerged in liquid or something like that.
Do you know how they have to check fingerprints sometimes with someone that's severely bloated from being in the water?
It's kind of neat. I think that's when they have to take the fingerprints off and put them on, and then they have to wear them.
Yeah, they have to put the skin on like a glove.
It's super neat. I'm sorry. It is actually fucking neat. I've seen them do it. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
So on February 5th, 1994, Miss Kelly was convicted by a jury of 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder. The court sentenced him to life plus 40 years in prison. His conviction was appealed, but the Arkansas Supreme Court affirmed the conviction.
Yeah, that literally
And when there's a video of them going in, they're going, "You're going to beat this. You're going to beat this." They're praying. They're, and as soon as they said he was guilty, just that look on his face.
Barnett would not allow them to even. They wouldn't allow the lawyers to show the fact that he didn't know what Jesse Miskelly or didn't know what he was talking about. He was messing up everything. Jesse Miskelly didn't even know what a lawyer was. He thought
He
he was
didn't even
part
know
of the
who
police.
Satan was.
Yeah, none of it.
Yeah.
And all of that, and they were like, they wouldn't even allow a psychologist to come in, and none of it. If they would have just allowed a psychologist in there, Barnett believed that psychology had no place in the courtroom. And if
Well,
they would
see,
have had a
and
psychologist,
Mhm.
I was going to say, if they had a psychologist come in there, test his IQ, show that he actually wasn't competent, show that, on top of that, with all the other evidence that showed him being out of town.
Right.
Mhm.
That's a pretty big piece of evidence right there.
Right?
Well, and it
And
makes you wonder if during that time, and I don't know the laws in Missouri, but there was a point to where there has to, let me back up. So there are some laws in some states that have been changed that because the state they normally have more money to put into psychologists and different specialists and things like that, that the defense has to be able to not be disadvantaged. They have to be able to have some semblance of the same type of money in order to call in their own specialists and different things like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So I don't know if that was in place or if that was an issue during this time, but I know what really bothered me, and I'm not meaning to jump ahead a little bit, but when we get to a point to where we have DNA and it had to be taken all the way to the Supreme Court, and the state is still arguing that the only time DNA should be admissible is if it proves guilt, not if it proves innocence. Only if it proves guilt.
Exactly. And that is what they brought up in that, and
Yeah,
the
it's
new
crazy.
that's where I was saying, I kind of knew, I kind of understood where that DA was coming from when he was saying that, because they were basically saying, look, you're an elected official here, and but you could see in his face that he knew they were innocent, but he also was like, I also want to have a career here, and with how Arkansas works, I'm not going to be able to continue this on if I do what's right,
because they're going to sue the shit out of all of us.
Yeah, so that's where they got the Alford plea, and they're like, well, we can do this, and they also knew that a lot of people didn't want to go back, and they're like, basically, it was going to be a huge shit show bringing these people back in, because the main thing was, and I did understand when they said they're not going to remember certain things of their not confessions, but what is it, their testimonies. But then you also have them coming back in and going, I lied under oath, and they're gonna have to deal with all that. And that's the reason why they really came in with the Alford plea and was like, this is the only way we're gonna be able to get out of this, to make it so Arkansas was 100% right, but also they're right. And
like, I didn't practice due diligence at all with my investigation.
Exactly.
I found a patsy and I stuck it there.
And I think the new DA, and especially in the documentary, when I think he saw that and was like, how the hell do we get out of this?
Yeah.
So now we're getting into the Eccles Baldwin trial. 3 weeks after the Miss Kelly trial, Eccles and Baldwin went on trial. The prosecution accused the 3 young men of committing a satanic ritual murder. The prosecution called Dale W. Griffiths, a graduate of the unaccredited Columbia Pacific University, as an expert in the occult to testify the murders were a satanic ritual.
So before the internet, at one point, I do believe you were able to get a college degree.
You were able to get a college certificate. Certificate of completion for online colleges for taking a 6 weeks course, and basically it was just filling out stuff and putting your name on it and paying.
Yeah. Well, on March 19th, 1994, Eccles and Baldwin were found guilty of 3 counts of murder. The court sentenced Eccles to death and Baldwin to life in prison. At the trial, the defense team argued that news articles from the time could have been the source of Eccles' knowledge about genital mutilation, and Eccles said his knowledge was limited to what was on TV. The prosecution claimed that Eccles' knowledge was nonetheless too close to the facts, since there was no public reporting of drowning or that one victim had been mutilated more than others. Eccles testified that Detective Ridge's description of their earlier conversation, which was not recorded, regarding those particular details was inaccurate, and indeed that some other claims by Ridge were flat out lies.
Mm-hmm.
Mara Leverett, an investigative journalist and author of Devil's Knot, argues that Eccles' information may have come from police leaks, such as Detective Gitchell's comments to Mark Byers that circulated amongst the local police, or the public, rather.
Mm-hmm.
The defense team objected.
And The Devil's Knot is supposed to be a really, really good book. I think it's used a lot of times in reference to the West Memphis Three case.
It is.
Oh yeah.
It is very much so, but make sure if you do look it up that you do not look up the Devil's Balloon Knot. Okay, that is something completely different. Absolutely different.
Very different.
The defense team objected when the prosecution attempted to question Eccles about his past violent behaviors, but the defense objections were overruled. Delphine, pardon me, fellow murderers. We must mutilate the others a bit more so that they all have an equal amount of mutilation. We don't want to look silly. So they were railroaded throughout their entire trial.
Mm-hmm.
Our notes right here don't even talk about how they basically tried to pit them against each other, where one lawyer would be like, if you say he's the one who did it, you'll get off easier.
These are just...
And they said it to both of them.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, they were saying it to both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you turn on your friend.
They basically wanted Jesse Miskelly and Baldwin to really go after Damien. And like we said before, Miskelly at the end was like, absolutely no, I'm not doing this. He finally grew a backbone with the police because he said, screw it, I know where I'm going. And that's that. Jason Baldwin, that guy is a completely different story. He's almost the reason why they didn't get out of prison, because he absolutely wanted to go to another trial and to prove his innocence.
And they probably would have won. They probably would have won. It's a very high likelihood, I do believe, that they would have stayed Eccles' execution. However, he did that for his friend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's what he was saying in the documentary, that if what I did back then didn't help, but this actually now will help him get out of prison. Yeah. It'll all be for
because it would have probably been another 5 years before they would have actually ruled on the case.
I think so.
Eccles got malaria how many times?
Twice, I want to say.
Twice, or I think it's reoccurring once you get it or something like that. It
may be. Once it's in your blood, it's in your blood. Yeah. I can't remember.
It has the same effects as what's the other disease that makes your joints stuff swell up and body? No, your body fight itself. And
are you talking about arthritis, like childhood arthritis?
Something like that.
Lupus?
It's lupus. There you go. It's an autoimmune disorder. Yeah. That's what malaria ends up doing to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into criticism of the investigation. There has been widespread criticism of the handling of the crime scene by the police. Miskelly's former attorney, Dan Stidham, cites multiple substantial police errors at the crime scene, characterizing it as literally trampled, especially on the creek bed. The bodies, he said, had been removed from the water before the coroner arrived to examine the scene and determine the state of the rigor mortis, allowing the bodies to decay on the creek bank and to be exposed to sunlight and insects. The police did not telephone the coroner until almost 2 hours after the discovery of the floating shoe, resulting in a late appearance by the coroner. Officials failed to drain the creek promptly and secure possible evidence in the water. The creek was sandbagged after the bodies were pulled out of the water. Stidham has called the coroner's investigation extremely substandard. There was a small amount of blood found at the scene that was never tested, according to HBO's documentary Paradise Lost, the child murders at Robin Hood Hills from '96, and Paradise Lost 2, Revelations from 2000. No blood was found at the crime scene, indicating that the location where the bodies were found was not necessarily the location where the murders had actually happened. After the initial investigation, the police failed to control disclosure of information and speculation about the crime and the crime scene itself. According to Leverett, police records were a mess. To call them disorderly would be putting it mildly. Leverett speculated that the small local police force was overwhelmed by the crime, which was unlike any they had ever investigated. Police refused an unsolicited offer to aid and consultation from the violent crimes experts of the Arkansas State Police.
See, they should have got the state police in there to begin with, because there is no way that this small area local police department was ready to handle something of this magnitude.
Well,
there's also something
help. That's weird.
They didn't want the help because they were under investigation by the Arkansas State Police for suspected theft from the drug task force in Crittenden County.
You know what's another thing we left out here too is the coroner is actually in this is they're a wing of the prosecution. They're the only the coroner here in the coroners are supposed to be completely independent. They're just supposed to look at what's going on in the bodies, figure out what's if they've died, if they had drugs in their system, do the autopsy,
and try to figure out without making assumptions how they may have died.
Here in West Memphis, I think it's still to this day they're still part of the prosecution. They're a wing of them, and it makes them impartial with whatever they're doing here. They have obligation. They're basically obligated
They're not impartial.
Or impartial, yeah. It makes them practically obligated to go along with the prosecution and give them all the evidence they want.
Well, Leverett further noted that some of the physical evidence was stored in paper sacks obtained from a supermarket, with the supermarket's name printed on the bags rather than in containers that of known and controlled origin. So they were just like, hey, let's walk across the street to that Piggly Wiggly, and we're going to just put some of the evidence in one of these bags. Why not?
Was there Piggly Wiggly?
I don't know if it was a Piggly Wiggly.
It was probably a Piggly Wiggly.
It probably was a Piggly Wiggly.
If it was here, it'd be a Vons.
We still have one in Ohio, one that I know of only that I've ever seen around here. And
we have one here in this town.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah,
I want to go.
I was down in Georgia. I don't remember where I
Wiggly.
was in Georgia, but I was down in Georgia for like a couple weeks many years ago, and there was 2 Piggly Wigglies. And they were like out kind of almost in the middle of nowhere where they were. Like they had their own property, had to get around on like 4-wheelers and stuff. But like 2 Piggly Wigglies. And I was like, all right. But I actually found one in a small town in Ohio, and I was doing a trip out to a cabin a couple years ago, and I was like, I'd never even seen one in Ohio in its heyday, let alone like finding one in the wild now. It's crazy.
Finding one in the wild.
It's the wild.
It's a free ranging Piggly Wiggly.
What do you guys have Vons or Albertsons over there, or Kroger?
Yeah, we
have
have Kroger.
Is that,
yeah,
Albertsons owns Kroger.
Same
right?
company. Same company. Yeah, same company.
Okay.
We've run into Albertsons.
I
think it's when we were in.
Huh?
Oh,
Huh?
what is it? King Supers. That's the other one that's attached to Kroger. I'll run into King Supers once in a while, and I
was gonna
guess
say,
the
like,
Kroger card works at that.
The Vons here, dear God, the liquor sections. It's like they have some of the coolest beers and stuff like that. Like if you go to a Vons or something like that, or I guess Kroger over there,
Nope.
some of the coolest.
They don't do that at the Kroger here. Like
Really?
there's a section, but it's not. We have other stores that do that. Like our state liquor stores are what are crazy with that stuff here. You'll find like selections of craft stuff like that for days, but not in any of the supermarkets. Just basic.
One of my favorite things about being in the South that kind of cracked me up because it made no sense to me was the party. What was it? The party shops, which
Mhm.
was beer, and then you have the box shops.
The what?
The box is liquor and wine.
Yeah, so we have those. They just
A
all
party
they're
in a
only
box.
called
Well,
they're only called
ours
state
is
liquor
like
stores
everything
but
now, but liquor can't be sold in like a grocery store.
yeah,
As
it's,
far
They
as I
had
know.
it. Yeah, they had it that beer and liquor actually could not be sold together. And the funny part was the one that we went to. There was a drive-through party store, and
And
we
you
could go
can't
get
get
beer.
That's called a
get
carry-out.
liquor through a drive-through either. Yes, that is true.
You
No.
can't hear. Here
And
you can.
so you'd go to the
Really?
party store, which was a walk-in too.
Mhm.
And then directly next door was the box store.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, okay. See, we had that
And
too, but we got drive-throughs, and you can totally go through. Only some can you buy liquor at. Like only some you can
Wait,
buy liquor and beer, but some you can just
we
go right in
have
and get liquor.
drive-through dairies that people just use to get 40s.
You have
I
Yeah.
miss drive-through convenience stores. Period. They used to
Yeah.
That's
have
what I'm
those
talking
a long
about.
time ago.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We have a ton of them all over Ohio. Every time I
miss-
talk about it,
I
most people
miss
don't even know what
those.
they are.
I miss
So they're like, "You
Whittier.
mean the drive-in?" I'm like, "No, the drive-in is where you drive in your car to watch a movie. The
I miss those
drive-through is
too.
where you just go through like a little convenience store and get what you need and drive the fuck out."
There's
Mhm.
one drive-in left here in California, and it's in San Luis Obispo County, and I honestly would make the trek to go to the drive-in.
We've got
and watch
one
a
in
movie.
downtown Atlanta.
No, see when you come here, man, there's
There's
one here
one
in Dayton,
in-
and then there's one like another like 45 minutes away over towards like Hamilton, and so there's two, and like
I
There's
love
one
one
really
in
close, one a little bit of a drive.
Riverside. There's one in San Luis Obispo. And then the one in Santa Fe Springs is now just a swap meet.
Oh yeah, you guys would love the ones here.
Yeah.
The biggest one that I go to, the Dixie Twin. It's been around since before I was born in '82, and it's still going. They did this thing where
Nice.
they did the big fundraiser to update it to the digital screens, and they've got
Mhm.
2 screens, so you can go if you don't like the movie showing first on this side, and just drive over to that side and watch the first one over there, then go back to the other side. And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll play the first movie over as a third movie, so then you can watch one on one side and the other two. The place is
Mhm.
amazing, and they do horror stuff, local film stuff.
Oh,
It's
that's
awesome.
neat.
You guys would love it.
All right, we're squirreled off enough again. We're
Sorry.
almost done with this. We got to get
No, we're not almost
Oh.
done with this at all.
no. There's a
There is a lot.
good 20 or 30 minutes left.
Try an hour.
Okay,
Five
we'll
more
see.
episodes.
So when police speculated about the assailant, the juvenile probation officer assisting at the scene of the murders speculated that Eccles was capable of committing these murders, stating, "It looks like Damien Eccles finally killed someone." And that's how that all got started. Brent
Mhm.
Turvey, a
Typical
forensic
case.
scientist and criminal profiler, stated in the film Paradise Lost 2 that human bite marks could have been left on at least one of the victims. However, these potential bite marks were first noticed in photographs years after the trials and were not inspected by a board-certified medical examiner until 4 years after the murders. The
Only if you have a
defense's-
turtle face.
Yeah,
right.
I like
The
that.
defense's expert testified that the marks in question was not an adult bite mark, while experts put on by the state concluded that there was no bite marks at all. The state's expert had examined the actual bodies for any marks, and others conducted expert photo analysis of injuries. Upon further examination, it was concluded that if these marks were bite marks, they did not match the teeth of any of the 3 that were convicted.
even if it was or whatever it was, Judge Barnett, if it was going to help out Damien and Jesse Baldwin and all them,
He would have thrown it
yeah,
out.
he would have thrown it out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
So in May of 94, the 3 defendants appealed their convictions. The convictions were upheld in on direct appeal. In June of 96, Miss Kelly's lawyer, Dan Stidham, was preparing an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. In 2007, Eccles petitioned for a retrial based on a statute permitting post-conviction testing of DNA evidence due to technological advances made since 94, which might provide exoneration for the wrongfully convicted. The petition failed, and the original trial judge, Judge David Burnett, disallowed presentation of this information in his court.
He was the reason holding it. Every time it came up, he was just like, "Nope, it's done."
Yeah. This ruling was in turn thrown out by the Arkansas Supreme Court as to all three defendants on November 4th, 2010. So now we're going to talk about John Mark Byers, the adopted father of victim Christopher Byers, gave a knife to cameraman Doug Cooper, who was working with the documentary makers Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky while filming the first Paradise Lost feature. The knife was a folding hunting knife manufactured by Kershaw. According to the statements given by Berlinger and Sinofsky, Cooper informed them of his receipt of the knife on December 19th, 1993. After the documentary crew returned to New York, Berlinger and Sinofsky were reported to have discovered what appeared to be blood on the knife.
If just to remind people, John Mark Byers was the person that they in the first Paradise Lost that we brought up before. They try to say basically, oh, he's probably the one who really killed everybody because he was weird and out there and all that stuff, but he really was just a grieving father.
Well, I think it was a mixture between alcoholism and this drove him crazy. I think he really cared about that kid, but the way that
he adopted him,
the community in general treated him afterwards was like a pariah. I mean, he might as well had a scarlet A or something on his shirt, and I think it really drove him crazy.
Even Eccles came forward and was like, "You guys are treating him
like
me."
Originally, Eccles in the documentary, you could actually hear him say it was probably John Mark Byers who did this. Oh, definitely. He's all definitely. And then it was later on. It was a few years after when he was finally on death. He was in prison, and they actually John Mark Byers did blame everything. Hi, Stephen P. Kitty Cat. He did blame everything on Damien Eccles at first, but then he even said I started looking at the evidence, and he's all none of this matches up, and he's all it's not Damien who did this. And they actually did apologize to each other through letters, and they actually did make up and everything like that. And Damien Eccles was the one who was saying, he was like, no, you guys are actually treating him just like me. And for us to go after him is the same as you guys going after me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So Cooper informed them, after the documentary crew returned to New York, Berlinger and Sinofsky were reported to have discovered what appeared to be blood on the knife. HBO executives ordered them to return the knife to West Memphis Police Department. The knife was not received at the West Memphis Police Department until January 8th, 1994. Byers initially... Here, take that. Thank you.
Which that should have been thrown out due to no chain of custody, period.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Byers initially claimed the knife had never been used. However, after blood was found on the knife, Byers stated that he used it once to cut deer meat.
Yeah.
When told the blood matched both his and Chris's blood type, Byers said that he had no idea how the blood might have gotten on that knife. During interrogation, West Memphis police suggested that Byers that he might have left the knife out accidentally, and Byers agreed with this. Byers later stated that he may have cut his thumb. Further testing on the knife produced inconclusive results about the source of the blood. Uncertainty remained due to the small amount of blood, and because both Mark Byers and Chris Byers had the same HLA-DQA genotype, it was never really proven what kind of blood, whose blood it was, rather.
Sounds like saying, okay, there's O blood on there and you're O blood.
Yeah.
So are like a million other people.
Exactly.
So Byers agreed to and passed a polygraph test about the murders during the filming of Paradise Lost 2 Revelations, but the documentary indicated that Byers was under the influence of several psychoactive prescription medications that could have affected the test results.
He also had a look. They're trying, and even in the notes right here, they're trying to still like say, "Oh, it was him." It's not. He also had a
saying that in the documentary they mentioned
They're
that
also
he was on probably Klonopin, lithium, who freaking knows? That
There's
would have
also
messed with
another
Well,
thing
the
too.
thing
He had a
about it
major-
is, go ahead. I'm sorry, Frank. Go ahead.
he had a brain tumor too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why his head was actually kind of lopsided and everything like that. It was
Mhm.
literally misshapen because of everything he was going through.
So now
Mhm.
we're going to talk about the possible teeth prints. Following their convictions, Eccles, Miss Kelly, and Baldwin submitted imprints of their teeth. These were compared to the alleged bite marks on Steve Branch's forehead that had not been mentioned. Okay, who bites a fucking forehead?
And again, I didn't see any three of those with a turtle face.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
They're not
exactly.
turtly enough for the Turtle Club.
It wasn't
Exactly.
turtly enough.
Turtle,
Even if
turtle.
they sang, Ninja Turtles, I don't think it would have stretched. I don't think it would have
I
happened.
like turtles.
I don't care if they knew the theme song.
So it hadn't been mentioned in the original autopsy or the trial. No matches were found. John Mark Byers had his teeth removed in 97 after the first trial, but before an imprint could be made. His stated reason for the removal was apparently contradictory. He claimed that it was both seizure medication that was causing his teeth to rot out and or periodontal disease rather. And he planned the removal because of other kinds of dental problems, which had troubled him for years, which does make sense.
Yeah. It also, he didn't want to just come out and say, "Look, guys, I'm also a recovering addict. I relapse regularly," stuff like that.
Yeah. After an expert examination or examined autopsy photos and noted that he thought that might be the imprint of a belt buckle on Byers' corpse, the elder Byers revealed to the police that he had spanked his stepson shortly before he disappeared.
Yeah.
With a belt buckle? Ow.
See, the thing that pisses me off is they're going for all this circumstantial evidence. Why not just do your fucking job and actually start
That's all they had to
using
do.
actual material that you have? Quit making these guesses dependent on somebody. If you don't know, then it's an open case.
The shortcuts they took just really made their job 10 times harder and made their lives 10 times worse. And they could have just done it right to
And
begin with
ruined so many lives.
Mm-hmm.
Delphine said the thing about the meds and the seizures is absolutely true. I deal with that.
Yeah.
I know some people that are on various medications that affects their calcium.
Yep. Exactly.
And so it causes their teeth to
that and
get
with
messed
him
up, and then him being an alcoholic on top of it.
No, it wasn't just an alcoholic. He's a recovering addict, and I think it was.
He was a recovering addict. He actually had gone to jail for a little while. Yeah, for substance. But that doesn't mean that he was like a child murderer just because.
No, exactly. But all that stuff combined with your seizure medicines, being a recovering addict, you can clearly see that he wasn't taking care of himself. So yeah, he had his teeth removed because they were rotting out of his head.
In October of 2003, Vicki Hutchison, who had played a part in the arrest of Miss Kelly, Eccles, and Baldwin, gave an interview to the Arkansas Times in which she stated that every word she had given to the police was a fabrication. She further asserted that the police had implied that if she did not cooperate with them, they would take her child away.
Yep.
She said that when she visited the police station, employees had photographs of Eccles, Baldwin, and Miss Kelly on the wall and were using them as dart targets.
Wow.
She also claims that an audio tape the police said was unintelligible and they eventually lost was perfectly clear and contained no incriminating statements.
It's crazy, especially like watching stuff with police like raiding the wrong house. Stuff like that, and how they treat people in those situations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When they're like, "Oh, whatever. We're in the wrong spot. you clean this up
again."
But it's seeing stuff like this. I mean, I respect the police. There's not everyone is bad. I mean, but there are some bad ones out there, and this right here is the scary part of that, where they're like, "We fucked up, but we don't care. You're going to jail."
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So, in 2007, DNA collected from the crime scene was tested. None of it was found to match Eccles, Baldwin, or Miss Kelly, a hair not consistent with Steve Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs, was found tied into the knots used to bind one of the victims. The prosecutors, not inconsistent. I said that wrong.
Okay.
Not inconsistent with Steve Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs.
That's an
So,
odd phrasing, not inconsistent.
Yeah.
It's
So basically,
it was
a
him.
hair that was consistent with Stevie Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs, was found tied into the knots used to bind one of the victims.
But
The
those were
prosecutors-
also the child's shoelaces, though. Keep that in mind.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. Well, the prosecutors, while conceding that no DNA evidence tied the accused to the crime, said the state stands behind its convictions of Eccles and his confidants. Kamala Hobbs, May 5th, 2009, declaration in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Arkansas, Western Division indicates that one hair was consistent with the hair of Terry's friend David Jacoby.
Hmm.
Point
And it was
16.
found on the bank, I do believe.
Yes. And in point 17, additionally, after the murders, my sister, Jo Lynn McCowie, and I found in Terry's nightstand a knife that Stevie carried with him constantly, and which I had believed was with him when he died. It was a pocket knife that my father had given Stevie, and Stevie loved that knife. I had been shocked that the police did not find it with Stevie when they found his body. I had always assumed that my son's murderer had taken the knife during the crime. I could not believe it was in Terry's things. He had never told me that he had it. Point 18. Also, my sister Jo Lynn told me that she saw Terry washing clothes, bed linens, and curtains from Stevie's room at an odd time around the time of the murders. Point
Now,
19.
see, this is the kind of stuff that makes me. It wasn't even the knot in the hair or the hair in the knot, because it's being able to pick that up on a child's shoelace at a home where he lives with a stepfather that lives in that home. That's too flimsy in my opinion.
It's substantial.
Now, yeah,
Here's
Pocket
a,
knife thing,
Kobe,
that's important to me.
maybe if it was on the bank, but it was all this missed time that Hobbs had between the time that he dropped his wife off and they actually called the police.
Well, there was
the hair that they found, though. If they would have done their job, and especially in '93, there was DNA evidence at the time, and they at least, it might have taken some time, but if they would have done their job, it at least would have pointed them in the direction to start questioning the family.
He was never questioned. Yeah,
he wasn't
Originally,
questioned
he was never
until he sued one of the Dixie chicks. And that was
Yeah, I
years
forgot
and
about
years
that.
later.
I forgot about
Yep.
well.
yeah.
So she said there was additional new evidence discovered in 2007 that I cannot recall now. In 2013, written statements from two men, Billy Wayne Stewart and Benny Guy, were introduced into the court. They both claimed to have had information on the case linking Terry Hobbs to the murders, but were ignored by the police initially. Hey, Wild Bill.
Hey,
Long time no see. So now we're going to get to jury misconduct.
yeah, there's a
that.
there's a lot of this.
Not as much. As
no,
you
I'm
think,
just saying that's
but
what there was a few things of it. Like
Any is too much.
yeah, any is too much, definitely. In July 2008, it was revealed that Kent Arnold, the jury foreman on the Eccles Baldwin trial, had discussed the case with an attorney prior to the beginning of the deliberations. Arnold was accused of advocating for the guilt of the West Memphis Three and sharing knowledge of inadmissible evidence like the Jesse Miss Kelly statements with the other jurors. At the time, legal experts agreed that this issue could result in the reversal of the convictions of Jason Baldwin and Damian Eccles. In September of 2008, attorney, now judge, Daniel Stidham, who represented Miss Kelly in 1994, testified at a post-conviction relief hearing. Stidham testified under oath that during the trial, Judge David Burnett erred by making an improper communication with the jury during its deliberations. Stidham overheard Judge Burnett discuss taking a lunch break with the jury foreman and heard the foreman reply that the jury was almost finished. He testified that Judge Burnett responded, "You'll need food for when you come back from sentencing."
Wow.
And that the foreman asked in return what would happen if the defendant was acquitted. Stidham said that the judge closed the door without answering. He testified that his own failure to put this incident on the court record was his failure to meet the minimum requirement in state law to represent a defendant in a capital murder case was evidence of ineffective assistance of counsel, and that Miss Kelly's conviction should therefore be vacated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
again, they wanted these boys put in underneath the jail.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it was easy.
On October 29th, 2007, papers were filed in federal court by Eccles' defense lawyers seeking a retrial or his immediate release from prison. The filings cited DNA evidence linking Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of one of the victims, to the crime. And the new statements from Hobbs' now ex-wife, also presented in the filing, was new expert testimony that the supposed knife marks on the victims, including the injuries to Byers' genitals, were in fact the result of animal predation after the bodies had been dumped.
Yeah.
On September 10th, 2008, Circuit Court Judge David Burnett denied the request for the retrial,
And
citing
they brought in
DNA tests.
several specialists on that. Several,
Oh,
not
yeah.
just one.
And this asshole was citing the DNA tests were inconclusive, and that ruling was appealed to the Arkansas Supreme Court, which heard oral arguments in the case on September 30th in 2010.
This is where things start unraveling for the state,
Oh yeah.
and things
And
start
I
piling up.
love the comment that one of these chief justices made.
Oh yeah.
When they get to the actual plea deal, when they're like, no, it's time to help these guys out, and give them the retrials and that. Yeah,
It's like, what's it gonna hurt? Well, if you have nothing to fear, and you
Exactly.
are that confident in your what you've got on these three boys, then what's it gonna hurt? It's not gonna hurt anything.
The states each state wasted how much money for trials and all this other stuff.
So much.
It's like we're already here. Might as well do it again.
Well, on November 4th, 2010, the Arkansas Supreme Court ordered a lower judge to consider whether newly analyzed DNA evidence might exonerate the three. The justices also instructed the lower court to examine claims of misconduct by the jurors who sentenced Damian Eccles to death and Jesse Miskelly and Jason Baldwin to life in prison. In early December 2010, David Burnett was elected to the state senate in Arkansas. Finally.
Which basically made it so he could not roll on his case. He couldn't be a part of it. None of it.
Yep.
Circuit Court Judge David Laser was selected to replace David Burnett and preside in the evidentiary hearings mandated by the successful appeal. Plea deal and release in 2011. After weeks of negotiation, on August 19th, 2011, Eccles, Baldwin, and Miskelly were released from prison as part of a plea deal, making the hearings ordered by the Arkansas Supreme Court unnecessary. The three entered into an unusual deal, which is called the Alford plea.
Mm-hmm.
And give me a minute here. I'm going to get the actual definition because
it's crazy.
I wanted to bring it up earlier and I forgot to bring it.
Yeah, it's
so the Alford plea is technically best interest plea. An Alford plea, also known as best interest plea, registers a formal admission of guilt towards charges in criminal court while the defendant simultaneously expresses their innocence towards those same charges. It's
It's the you can't
basically,
sue me clause.
Yeah.
yes, they accept all the consequences of a guilty plea, often based on an offer made of a lesser sentence without admitting to the crime nor any of its elements.
And the reason why they were able to get out too is because they already served 18 years. So they didn't have to worry. They couldn't come in with an Alfred plea and be like, all right, you're going to serve another 5 years. But they're like, no, you've already served 18 years. You're going. And that was the thing too. When they did this plea, I think we might get to it here. I can't see the notes real fast, but they basically were like, how do we do this? Because the minute we do this plea, they have to be immediately released from jail. Not, months down the road or whatever it is. It has to be immediate to get them out. And this is what they came up with.
So they do have a little bit of an explanation here. The offered plea is a legal mechanism that allows defendants to plead guilty while still asserting their actual innocence. In cases where defendants concede that prosecutors have sufficient evidence to secure a conviction, Stephen Braga, an attorney with Ropes and Gray, who took up Eccles' defense on a pro bono basis beginning in 2009, negotiated the plea argument with prosecutors. Under the deal, Judge David Laser vacated the previous convictions, including the capital murder convictions for Eccles and Baldwin, and ordered a new trial. Each man then entered an Alford plea to lesser charges of first and second degree murder while verbally stating their innocence. Judge Laser then sentenced them to time served, a total of 18 years and 78 days. And they were each given a suspended imposition of sentence for 10 years. If they reoffended, they can be sent back to prison for 21 years. Factors cited by prosecutor Scott Ellington for agreeing to the plea deal include that two of the victims' families had joined the case or the cause of the defense, that the mother of a witness who testified about Eccles' confession had questioned her daughter's truthfulness, and that the state crime lab employee who collected fiber evidence at the Eccles and Baldwin's home after their arrest had died. As part of the plea deal, the three men could not pursue civil action against the state for wrongful imprisonment, which is bullshit.
Well, so you can't sue me clause.
I do like Judge Laser, what he did though. Do you remember, Natalie, in a documentary, he did basically come out at the end of it and apologize to them.
He did, and if I remember correctly, he was like, "Look, this is all you've got to say. Your lawyer's going to tell you what to say. I'm not expecting you to say I'm guilty."
Yeah. And like he was, you could tell he was a good guy, a good judge. He knew it. Basically, it came down to is that he knew if he brought this back to trial, they were going to go free.
Oh yeah,
and,
big time,
and sue the living shit out of Arkansas.
The way Judge Laser was saying it was like, just you guys don't have to go along with this. You're going to be stuck in jail for a few more years, but you are going to be able to sue the state for millions and live a nice life.
So many of the men's supporters and even the people who still believed them guilty were unhappy with the unusual plea deal because it was just so odd. So the people who support them were unhappy because they didn't have the ability to sue and make money off of it. And the people who believed them to be guilty still were unhappy because they were out.
Well, it also creates a ton of conspiracy theories because the reality of it is you cannot be guilty and innocent at the exact same time.
Yeah.
You can't.
No double jeopardy either.
Yeah. Well, they're exactly the fact that they're even saying, well, if you reoffend anything, whatever you do, which actually I think Miss Kelly got like a DUI, and luckily he didn't go back to jail.
Well,
it was something like that.
He could have went back to jail for another 20-something years because of that.
Oh, yeah.
In 2011, supporters pushed Arkansas Governor Mike Bebe. I don't know. To pardon Eccles, Baldwin, and Miss Kelly based on their innocence. He said that he would deny the request unless there was evidence showing someone else committed the murders.
Why
And
did they never look into Chris Morgan and Brian Holland and frickin' Terry Hobbs?
Right.
Because they didn't want to.
well, look what they did when they re-questioned Terry Hobbs. They literally were like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience here, guy." And they were
it's really surprising they kept anything that could be used for DNA, to be very honest with you.
Prosecutor Scott Ellington said the Arkansas State Crime Lab would help seek other suspects by running searches on any DNA evidence produced in private laboratory tests during the defense team's investigation. This would include running the results through the FBI's combined DNA index database.
Mm-hmm.
Ellington said that although he still considered the men guilty, the three would likely be acquitted if a new trial were held because of the powerful legal counsel representing them now, the loss of evidence over time, and the change of heart among some of the witnesses.
So you had it wasn't just the change of heart. You had witnesses coming up and saying, "We lied under oath, and you let us get away with it."
Told us.
Well, and even with Chris Morgan and Brian Holland, like early in the investigation, the West Memphis police briefly did regard those two as suspects. They not only like took off shortly after all that happened, but they drove an ice cream route in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So the families of the three victims are divided in their opinions as to the guilt or innocence of the West Memphis Three. In 2000, the biological father of Christopher Byers, Rick Murray, expressed his doubts about the guilty verdicts on the West Memphis Three website. In 2007, Pamela Hobbs, the mother of victim Stevie Branch, joined those who had publicly questioned the verdicts, calling for a reopening of the verdicts and further investigation of the evidence. In late 2007, John Mark Byers, who was previously vehement in his belief of Eccles, Miskelly, and Baldwin's guilt, also announced that he now believes that they are innocent. I had made the comment, if it were ever proven the three were innocent, I'd be the first to leave the charge for their freedom, said Byers, and take every opportunity that I have to voice that the West Memphis Three are innocent and the evidence and proof prove they're innocent. Byers has spoken to the media on behalf of the convicted and has expressed his desire for justice for the families, both for the victims and the three that were accused.
The crazy thing is, with Pamela Hobbs, to watch her, to watch her over time, when this stuff first started happening and started filming her back when, her son initially died, and then going to like the documentary and all that stuff, you can see her slowly realize that how much she was gaslit by Terry Hobbs. How much she was. I mean, she broke up with him. She finally kicked him out in 2000.
Divorced
Like
him. Yeah.
On that night, actually.
Yeah, but it still went on from then. You could see it when they interviewed her here and there, and where it was like just it took time for her to process it and to actually come to light and be like, oh my god, it more than like it was you who killed them.
Mm-hmm.
And these innocent, to even have her there when they were released, you could just see the emotion on her face, like you could, because she was made to believe something that wasn't real, and you could see her still struggling with that. It was it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 2010, District Judge Brian S. Miller ordered Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of victim Stevie Branch, to pay $17,590 to Dixie Chicks singer Natalie Maines for legal costs stemming from a defamation lawsuit he filed against the band. Miller dismissed the suit Hobbs filed over Maines' remarks and writings implying that he was involved in the killing of his stepson. The judge said Hobbs had chosen to involve himself in public discussion over whether the convictions were just.
Because he did this, because he sued.
That's why he was on everyone's radar.
He was able to be questioned finally. And that, I think that was also part of this is also because he was able to be questioned. It also started pointing things, it really started helping out Damien Eccles and all them a lot, because it was just insane too. What's her face from the Dixie Chicks was like, who is this guy? And he's suing me for defamation. It was like, what? And it was like, just to see the realization, and basically when they're like, we can question you from the child abuse, the sexual abuse, the supposed sexual abuse that happened, everything. Now we can actually go through all this stuff because you're saying that these people defamed you, and now we can come after you.
Yep, entirely.
Right. Well, and who's to say that Mrs. Hobbs wasn't just mad at him, and just it was just a very bitter divorce and what have you. So she's looking for somebody to blame,
Yeah.
just like the other parents. But again, I go back to that missing time when Hobbs goes in to pick her up from work, goes straight to the phone to make a phone call, and is seen not only in different clothes, if I understand correctly, and also washing clothes in a very oddball
Also,
time.
didn't mention to his wife that there was a search going on for her son
For hours.
hours
Yeah.
into the search.
I know I'm talking a little less this episode. Like all the information you guys are giving me, it's a lot so that I didn't actually know it. I'm just sitting over here like, what the fuck?
It's
crazy.
The Terry Hobbs stuff is major. Like what? And I'm just when I was like saying this, I was just looking at. I was seeing the realization on her face. Her body expressions over time when it was just like the realization that maybe the better way for me to say it was just a realization that it wasn't Damien Eccles and them who killed her son. That was someone else, and she realized
and
that
that's
it wasn't.
an awful guilt that you would have to carry, even if you weren't the one that did it. But as a mother, and it's your job to protect your child.
Oh, exactly.
I don't think I could have done it. And I did not. I will tell you this much. I did about the child molestation and stuff with Hobbs. I'm not really sure about that, to be honest. Now,
why did he go
with maybe corporal punishment that got out of hand? Like he was just way too rough.
Yeah.
And he probably knocked him out. And then he was like, oh shit, I killed him. And these other kids are going to tell on me. What is my option? I could see that playing out that way. But with the youngest daughter, what was her name? Ashley or Allison or something like that. Terry Hobbs's actual daughter.
That's what
they were doing, all that repressed memory thing, like I did drugs and he must have molested me. I wish somebody would have told me when I was younger. Not to say that can't happen, because repressed memories can happen.
Yeah.
But it was just so overused at that time period. I think honestly it may have been just more that that whole family life was very, very just did not work well, dysfunctional, especially after the death of that child.
Wow.
Yeah.
So John E. Douglas, a former longtime FBI agent and current criminal profiler, said that the murders were more indicative of a single murderer intent on degrading and punishing the victims than of a trio of unsophisticated teenagers. Douglas believed that the perpetrator had a violent history and was familiar with the victims and with local geography. Douglas served as an FBI unit chief of the Investigative Support Unit of the National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crimes for 25 years. He stated in his report for Eccles' legal team that there was no evidence the murders were linked to satanic rituals and that post-mortem animal predation could explain the alleged knife injuries. He said that the victims had died from a combination of blunt force trauma and drowning in a crime which he believed was driven by a personal cause.
And if I'm not mistaken, some of those autopsy reports, 2 of them actually did die. That was the actual ruling of death. I think the one, which may have been the Hobbs boy, may have been blunt force trauma, but I cannot remember. Yeah. You can find the information out there.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to actually bring this up because they actually did bring it up in the documentary. Terry Hobbs' priors that he had, especially with the one with the woman that he lived near in the other city. I can't think where it was at, the name of the city, but where he basically just showed up in her bathroom and started groping her.
I think I remember that, or like masturbation or something weird like that.
Were they already at the house at least, or they just show up to the house and then go inside and then just pop into the bathroom?
She was like a neighbor or something.
They had a dispute, and he got aggressive with her or something like that. But then Well, she didn't think, she just let it go and went in there, started taking a shower, and all of a sudden, when she gets out of the shower completely naked, he's there and practically starts trying to rape her.
Yeah, very bizarre.
It
Very,
was
very
like one of those
bizarre.
weird. That's where I actually do that. That's what it was. Where I was like, there probably was some weird stuff going on there.
Yeah.
With that, because you don't just do stuff like that
No.
unless
Mhm.
unless there's some priors, you know. So sorry.
What?
I don't know. You gave me like a look like you're ready to read or something. Sorry.
I am ready to read. My back hurts.
I'm sorry.
So 3 films: Paradise Lost, the child murders at Robin Hood Hills; Paradise Lost 2, Revelations; and Paradise Lost 3, Purgatory, directed by Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky, have documented the case and are strongly critical of the verdict. The films marked the first time Metallica allowed their music to be used in a movie, which drew
Yep.
attention to the case.
Yep.
There have been numbers of books about the case, also arguing that the suspects were wrongly convicted. Devil's Knot by Mara Leverett, Blood of Innocence by Guy Real, and The Last Pinnacle of the Sun, Writings in Support of the West Memphis Three, edited by Brett Alexander Savory and
Michael.
M.W. Anderson. Featuring dark fiction and nonfiction by well-known writers of speculative fiction. In 2005,
That's me.
Damien Eccles completed his memoir, Almost Home, Volume 1, offering his perspective of the case. A biography of John Mark Byers by Greg Day, named Untying the Knot, John Mark Byers, and the West Memphis Three, was published in May of 2012. Many songs were written about the case, and 2 albums released in support of the defendants. In 2000, the album Free the West Memphis Three was released on Coke Records, organized by Eddie Spaghetti of the band Super Suckers. I remember that band. I had a teacher whose favorite band was Super Suckers. The album featured a number of original songs about the case and other recordings by artists such as Steve Earle, Tom Waits, L7, and Joe Strummer.
I can't stand Tom Waits.
Yeah, but Joe Strummer, come on. In 2002, Henry Rollins worked with other vocalists from various rock, hip-hop, punk, and metal groups and members of Black Flag and the Rollins Band on the compilation Rise Above, 24 Black Flag songs to benefit the West Memphis Three. All money raised from the sales of the album are donated to the legal funds of the West Memphis Three. Metalcore band Zao, their 2002 album Parade of Chaos included a track inspired by the case named Free the Three. On April 28, 2011, the band Disturbed released a song that was titled 3 as a download on their website. The song is about the West Memphis Three, with 100% of the proceeds going to benefit their foundation for their release. The website by Martin David Hill contained approximately 160,000 words, and intending to be a thorough investigation, collates and discusses many details surrounding the murders and investigation, including some anecdotal information. Investigative journalist Aphrodite Jones. Okay, that just sounds like a porno.
It does. Aphrodite Jones.
Aphrodite Jones.
Aphrodite Jones is coming to the stage.
Drop your dollars and make her holler. I'm sorry.
This is the late night phone call line with Aphrodite Jones. Don't you want to have some fun? Can't you see us jumping up and down having pillow fights? Why don't you give us a call?
Fucking Rick and Morty fucking planets and everything like that.
That's
what it sounds like.
For you.
So, investigative journalist Aphrodite Jones undertook an exploration of the case on her Discovery Network show True Crime with Aphrodite Jones.
I'm sorry. I can't take it seriously with that name. I'm kidding.
Following the DNA discoveries, the episode premiered May 5th, 2011, with extensive background information included on the show's page at the Investigation Discovery site. In August 2011, White Light Productions announced that the West Memphis Three would be featured on their new program, Wrongfully Convicted. In January 2010, the CBS television news journal 48 Hours aired the Memphis Three, and it was an in-depth coverage of the history of the case, including interviews with Eccles and supporters. On September 17th, 2011, 48 Hours re-aired the episode with the update of their release and interviews from Eccles and his wife, Ann Baldwin. Pierce Morgan Tonight aired an episode on September 29th, 2011 about the Three's plans for the future and continued investigations on the case.
Crazy thing is, you could tell something was about to happen here because I think when were they released, at the end of 2011 or?
They were already released at this point.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, but prior to this, with everything taking off here from 2010 and all these media groups getting in on it, you can tell something was about to happen. That they were taking it seriously and like, okay, now we're about to see these people actually be released and everything.
So, West of Memphis, directed by Amy J. Berg, and produced by Peter Jackson,
that's the documentary we've been referencing,
as well as by Eccles himself. Premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2012. Actor Johnny Depp, a longtime supporter of the West Memphis Three and personal friend of Damien Eccles, was on hand to support the film in its premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2012. Adam Egoyan directed a dramatized feature film of the case titled Devil's Knot, released in the U.S. theaters on May 9th, 2014. And it starred Reese Witherspoon and Colin Firth.
I actually heard that's a terrible movie.
Never even saw it. Don't remember it even.
I didn't even know about it.
Yeah. I knew about it, but I was like, I heard actually Reese Witherspoon did a terrible job in that, which she's a great actress. I actually like watching her in a lot of stuff she's in, but that one.
She's adorable and spunky.
I still like Legally Blonde.
I think we're done.
Movies were fucking hilarious.
Is that it?
We're done. Yeah, everything else on here in the notes is just the bio of who they are, and that's it.
Well, Aftermath, Eccles relocated to Salem, Massachusetts with his wife, has no intentions of returning to Arkansas. In an interview with Pierce Morgan, he said that he would like to have a career in writing and visual arts. He has published his own memoir, Almost Home. And he did that while he was still in prison.
Yeah, he also wrote
he has also worked on a number of additional media projects, and I do believe he's also a tattoo artist.
I think you're right. I think he is.
I think he wrote a book, some stuff on like some stuff on witchcraft too, and everything. Actually, I'm being 100% serious too.
I would.
I think you're right too. I think you're right on that one too.
But,
holy shit! We're finally done with it.
What
are you pointing at?
You sound hollow when you're away from the mic.
No, I was just like, yay, we're done.
That's it.
I wasn't trying to talk to people. I was just trying to say, holy shit. We have done something. We have finished.
So Natalie, how does it feel to know you've finally gotten through the content?
You know how long the last part of the West Memphis Three has taken us? 3 years.
I mean, yeah,
3 years to get this far.
That's why I'm
I feel
asking
complete.
you, man. It's good.
And empty all at the same time.
No, when you weren't feeling very well, I had explained to Raz, I was like, first off, she doesn't back out of anything ever. So
right.
Just,
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to tell you that the last time we tried to do this was the first time that people fucked us over.
Mm-hmm.
And
the skunt.
the skunt. And we it just dropped. It dropped. And so, of course, we weren't going to go live without Natalie because this is her thing.
Right.
Well, and now I know why I was feeling so crunky. I've got the flu or COVID. I don't know which one I've got, but I feel.
You got the vid.
The Rona.
I got the vid.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to bed here in a minute.
It started last because we were going to do it Thursday, and I remember you texting us going, "I am exhausted, guys," and I was like,
Kinda. Well, last week was just a rough week, but I just
Yeah.
I just was fit to be tied Sunday.
Yeah.
She just wanted to take a nap, and I said I was tired too, and then that's just how that all snowballed.
Yeah.
So,
And then she
hooray!
That's it. And we are going to be going. We're not doing another episode after this. We're going to be taking our break, right?
When are we
I
going to
do
get
believe-
low damage?
I do believe. Well, is it our break? I know Odd Mother's break will be coming up Friday. That'll be her season finale. We've got
Right.
Krampus Knock coming tomorrow, so you
Yes.
guys don't miss
Tomorrow.
that.
Wait,
And the
tomorrow?
Christmas app.
No, not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Thursday.
Oh, that's
Thursday.
right.
Well, it's
Thursday,
tomorrow for us
Thursday.
now
Tomorrow-
because it's past
Tomorrow
midnight Eastern land.
we're gonna get visited by Santa.
That's
on
right.
Bucket Chat.
Yeah,
And
we
then
finished,
Thursday is Krampus, and Friday is Odd Mama.
and then
And then,
Outlight finished last week. Stephen P. Kitty Cat was this week, and I
I
think
will never be done.
I think we're gonna have. I think we're doing one more
and then
Ruth
Mikey's
Bleed
show
Red
was last
too.
week or this week.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah, so
show's
we're just
never
about
gonna
finished for the season.
Yeah.
We've got. Let's
Which-
see.
For Ruth Bleed Red, I wanted to cover Kemper on You Can't Sit With Us, but
Oh, thank you, Denny.
I might want to recover Kemper with Ruth Bleed Red again. It's a holiday tradition.
Oh yeah. I'll
I
tell you,
literally
man,
have
just let me
like a
know.
list of things that
Thank
I
you,
want to
Scott.
cover, and we keep covering the same people.
What? Oh, it's not like we're covering Kemper every week. We've only covered him twice before, and that was like years apart.
We've only covered him twice before.
You've never covered him with me.
That's exactly what I want to do.
No, and
We
it
need to
seems
do
some-
the Edmund Fitzgerald too.
Ooh,
I
that'd be a
literally
some
fun
have
one.
a
people fill out
list here.
their forms in Google Drive. We'll have a D&D show like in the interim sometime in the near future.
Nathan
Yes.
Dunlap.
Who's Nathan Dunlap?
He's the
I
inspiration
actually
for
really
Five
wanna
Nights
talk-
at Freddy's.
I'd
We
love
were
to
going
talk
to
about that
discuss
one.
this not on live because we
yeah.
haven't put the details together yet.
Well, I still before the end
Surprise.
of the. Yes, of course you can. Join
Sorry,
me.
y'all. I'm slowly like phasing
Of
out.
course.
Oh, okay.
I need to
You're
do a
amazing.
show about Mary Lloyd before the end of the holiday season.
Well, let's do this real fast. Let's go ahead and finish up
Why
here
not?
so we can get out of here and Natalie can go to sleep
In bathroom break.
because she's sick and we can take
Good.
our bathroom break. We can be done with the season. By the way, guys, go check us out on Spotify. That's where you can find everything out with You Can't Sit With Us and Outlight too.
Yep.
Yay.
Spotify, Google Music, or what's it called? The Google Podcasts is what that you can find
Yeah,
us all.
I
on
think
there,
it's just
too.
Google. It's just Google Podcast.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.